What's up, Starcraft fans? This video is brought to you by Endarthe, who is supporting me on Patreon. Pulse Cannon tier supporters or higher guaranteed one video redemption per month. This month he requested Wiki review again. So we will do Alarak, the highlight of Tal'Darim. So we have Eveling in the call with us today. Eveling, how are you?
Both of us are kind of waking up or messing with our sleep schedules.
Oh yeah. Well, it's only 10 p.m. for me, so there's still a little bit of time to get to bed on time. So let's actually begin right away. First, we have the basic information for Alarak. What do you think?
This is pretty straightforward information. Maybe if this was pre-prestige patch, then just kind of emphasizing on calling down the Death Fleet to annihilate his foes is not the most, I guess, relevant thing for his kit. But now it is with P3.
Yes, that is true. Okay, let's move on. Next, we have this information. What do you think?
Just a few odd terms. Tal'Darim Warhost, I guess that sounds about right. Heavy artillery, yeah, I would say yeah, a lot of his units could be classified as artillery units.
Maybe it's a typo.
His strength.
It meant Tal'Darim Swarm Host or something. That's what it totally meant. Yes, it spawns free units. Totally. Okay, continue.
That's very fitting. Early offensive, yes. Powerful hero, late game dominance. Ascendants are powerful spellcasters. I'm glad they mentioned that.
Very true.
Strong anti-armor. Yes, I'm glad they mentioned that. Weakness. Ascend is hard to enmass, yeah. Relatively gas restricted. Lack of mobility, sort of, kind of. With the Death Fleet, if it's non-P3, that's a lot of mobility coming out, because when you got non-P3 Death Fleet, it can teleport pretty much whenever, like there's no cooldown to it, so it can offer quite a bit of mobility for you and ally. Low DPS. Hell no, Alarak is not known for low DPS. I don't know where they're getting at with that.
All right, fair, pretty fair. I would just say maybe not lack of ability, maybe limited, because once you use the teleport, it's not available until a cooldown. So that's the thing to consider. Limited, but not lack. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Okay, we move on to info and mastery. What do you think?
Pretty much straightforward information regarding mastery. As the info, it's the usual meme. Recommended for experienced players. I mean, with prestiges, Death Fleet is a lot more easy for a lot of players. But yeah, I would say even before prestiges, Alarak was definitely not the most straightforward commander for a lot of people, and especially his use of ascendants was definitely a barrier for a lot of more casual players.
Myself included. I don't like to use that hotkey or that cooldown reset thingy. It's kind of too taxing for me to get, and I don't really get more benefit out of it than I would just normally using my ascendant. So that's my consideration. Anyway, so how about the masteries?
Mastery sets, pretty much it's all the straight facts that are listed down. Whether or not what you favor, depending on the current state that Alarak's in with his prestiges. I guess the only thing that you want to be considering is, like, depending upon what prestige you pick, make sure you allocate your masteries appropriately. Like, if you pick P2 and have any points in Death Fleet cooldown, you are doing it wrong.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for those of you who are unaware, if you have the second prestige of Alarak, you will not have the Death Fleet. So having a Death Fleet cooldown mastery is literally just wasting your points. Yeah?
Yep.
Alright.
Otherwise, just as you feel needed.
Next up we have prestiges. What do you think?
The procedures are pretty straightforward in terms of saying what the advantages are. Uh, I guess the disadvantage is a little discrepancy. It's kind of funny that I see that for Prestige 1, they're keying on the War Prism attack speed, but yeah, I guess because the thing is, with Slayers and War Prisms, they get double the number of souls, so you can power max stack them faster. Um, Definitely, they're not wrong. Prior to Wraithwalkers, then Vanguards, Slayers, and War Prisms, just in terms of if you have a mixed composition of where the souls start going to. So that's a good insight on that. Iron Ascendant, that's just straight up facts.
Yep.
Shadow of Death summons the fleet, no duration initial cooldown while the ship can construct destroyers. That's a very powerful point. You have a mobile station that can produce units. Destroyers may no longer be summoned with the mothership. Yep. That's just
Yes.
you have to summon them on their own.
They're summoned through via the mothership.
Yep. Otherwise, straight up facts.
All right. Next up, we have discussion on Alarak, the game unit. So, what do you think about this one?
Pretty straightforward. Just going over his destruction wave and deadly charge. First, the first paragraph is it's just stating facts, in my opinion. The second paragraph, going over his empower me abilities, definitely is just keying on the fact that with more units around, he gets stronger. The amount of damage he starts dishing out becomes pretty significant, especially if he's surrounded by heroic units.
Yeah.
The last paragraph, I'm a little on the fence with. So his biggest weakness is by himself, he is not very effective. I would say he's still pretty effective. I mean, the author is saying he's great at killing small groups of enemies, and that, I mean, in itself, in early game, is very effective. And if you do need a little extra power, that I wish they kind of mention is as soon as Alarak spawns, he has Empower Me active already. So early on, you can use your abilities Deadly Charge, Destruction Wave, and if you need to reset them like real fast to start dishing out your early damage, you pop Empower Me. It resets all that, and you got another set ready to go. And especially for the very first wave, you have that's extra ability to
deal damage,
wipe it out, and to deal the damage. And after you pop Empower Me, Alarak's basic attacks have an AoE to it. So yeah. I don't think he's lacking power by himself on the early game. But yeah, if later in the game it's just Alarak alone and most of your army is wiped out, okay, then I agree with that.
All right.
And then the last set is just straight up fact.
Straight up fact. Okay, let's move on. By the way, guys, if you need to read what's on the wiki, you can just pause the recording and then read on from there. Next, we have strategies and then mastery strategies. What do you think about this first one?
So, saying that his units are fragile, easily killed if not protected, that's... I think if you're just sending him to the meat grinder, okay, yeah, compared to like P2 Tychus running around, that's true. But for the most part, I would say like if you're going with supplicants, you got their upgrades, they actually can take quite a bit of hits. I mean, if you got both of the supplicant upgrades from the Death Council, they become targets for they reach their effective HP threshold, makes them targets for Yamato. So
Hmm.
yeah, they have a good. They're definitely not like troopers or marines. And then as for slayers, they got the phasing armor. That makes them pretty durable for what it is for like small engagements. Um, Vanguards and Wrathwalkers. Okay, Vanguards I could say they have no major shielding or anything like that of a mortal to help them survive, but they do have a good amount of range when paired with the Havoc, and Wrathwalkers, they have a lot more range, so it depends on how you're microing them. But if you're just throwing them straight at the enemy, then okay, maybe they're dead meat. Mastery strategies, attack, Alarak attack damage with Ascendants. Um, yeah, I kind of feel why are you focusing on power set one regarding ascendant play, but
I can see
it
it there.
I mean, yeah, he's not wrong for going this route, but it seems like it's just kind of out of the blue in my opinion. But
Mm,
okay.
yeah, I think this was written before. This section was written before prestigious were a thing, and definitely ascendants were the go-to strategy of choice during this time. Anyway, let's move on. Power set 2, Death Fleet cooldown. What do you think?
It's pretty straightforward. I'm glad he mentions in the second paragraph regarding Empower Me then using the no cooldown technique. Definitely, you can get a lot more mileage um, if you employ that technique on a very regularly, and then know your timings on Empower Me so that you just don't sit on it for too long.
Yes.
But otherwise, yeah, pretty good synopsis of Parset too.
Okay, let's move on. Power set 3.
Uh, pretty a very good synopsis. I think I'm glad he mentioned the 28-8 split for the structural overcharge and chrono boost mastery. And then I do like how he follows that up with the chrono boost efficiency of it does help you get establish your economy early. So having whatever you don't put into overcharge dedicated into chrono boost efficiency is helpful for Alarak in the early game. And then I do find it a little weird, just kind of just it seems out of left field on the last paragraph regarding the Tyrant Ascendant prestige and not having essentially mentioning um,
Yeah.
the loss of the Death Fleet, but I guess so.
Okay, let's move on. Prestige strategies. Okay, guys, you can just pause if you want to read.
So let's address this per prestige. So regarding Artificer of Souls, um, pretty much most of it is uh, pretty straightforward regarding this prestige. Alarak is his mech is a lot more powerful once they start accumulating souls. Alarak himself is pretty uh, scaled back in terms of what he can destroy. Usually,
Yeah.
one destruction wave with all small units, but
Marines,
with
Zerglings, they now survive
yeah,
Alarak's distraction wave. And now it really is a distraction wave.
yeah. But the other aspect I mentioned previously is when Alarak spawns, he has Empower Me. So early on, when you need to deal with that, make use of that first Empower Me in order to reset the cooldown, so you can have two destruction waves coming out, and you should be able to handle the early game for most situations with P1 Alarak. The one thing that I do have a problem with is there's a part they say there's no other way to buff his robotic army without ascendants. No, that is wrong. If as long as a supplicant dies near your mech, and the radius is pretty is relatively far.
Kind of massive, yeah. I think it's 16 or
Yeah,
something.
so yep, yep. So it doesn't. You don't have to have Ascendance out in order to start powering up your mech. In fact, you don't even have to make Ascendance at all. So if one way is to throw your make sure your supplicants are in front of everything and they're taking the brunt of the aggro, and they're gonna start going down eventually, and then that's just gonna power up your mech. And if you're going with that strategy, maybe forego getting the upgrades to your supplicants from the Death Council, so that makes them even more likely to go down. And then the other aspect is those two upgrades do require gas. So by foregoing that early gas on them, then you're able to get your mech units out quicker, and then start powering them up sooner. And
Okay.
then another way to power up Alarak, power up your mech, is to just force attack on Alarak. Because when you get him below a certain threshold, he's going to start eating the supplicants. So just but when you
Yes.
do that tactic, make sure to cut off appropriately. Maybe I usually leave at least one or two supplicants left. And sometimes as your mech is powering up, you don't realize how fast they can eat through them. But the other benefit to doing that is if you have all your abilities for Alarak unlocked already, then it also he gets a buff called Lightning Surge. So the next deadly charge he does, it confers AOE damage. So
Is it
in some sense,
splash? Or does it just hit 4 targets? I think it's the latter.
yeah. I mean, it's relative.
It's a
It's a limited
glaive.
splash.
It's a meatless glaive.
Yeah,
It's a monolith
yeah.
attack. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, let's move
It's
on.
not. It's not great, but it's something.
It is
So
something.
that's something you can do, but between engagements. I mean, have him at least eat one supplement between engagement, man. You're essentially powering up one of your mechs with souls, and you got that. You got that ready. So it's something. Next one, Tyrant Ascendant. Yeah, pretty much straightforward. I do like that they're noting to that his Empower Me becomes available much more often, and it syncs up pretty well with many attack waves,
Yeah,
or
definitely.
as long as
Yeah.
you're using it accordingly. And micromanagement Alarak is very important. Micromanagement of Alarak, micromanagement of your Ascendants. It is very important for Empower Me if you're using
Yeah.
the cooldown reset ability. And I is like, we get it. Some people are not keen to doing that, but people who are very practice it, and they can extract a lot out of the Tyrant Ascendant prestige.
From my experience, it's kind of rhythm based. You kind of need to have a rhythm for pressing the same buttons over and over again and not mess up. Otherwise, you will not get the full benefit or sometimes miss out on critical sub absorption. Also, one more thing is you need to have a lot of ascendants if you really want to maximize this cooldown reset thing. Normally, when I use not second prestige, I just limit myself to 16 ascendants so I can power them up more quickly. It's kind of like Abathur's ultimate of Lucius. You want to get fewer of them so you can power the few more quickly. But with Tyrant Ascendant, you want a lot of you want a lot of ascendants so that you have more resets for Alarak. Every time you sacrifice a supplicant, it resets Alarak's cooldowns. And with Empower Me, that gives him a lot of abilities. So yes, you do want
I
ascendants, a lot of them.
I I slightly disagree with that, because for me, if anything that lives beyond 10 resets, uh, yeah, nothing lives beyond 10 resets. And then the other aspect is for Tyrant Ascendant, your Empower Me duration is max. It better be max because you shouldn't have any points in Death Fleet. So yeah, for that entire duration, usually anything that lives beyond 10 resets is pretty. You got a game on your hands.
Yes.
And
Usually I
something else.
use all 10 resets when I attack big bases. For example, on Miss Opportunities, on Void Launch, on the back bases of Ability Express, those big bases. They do not go down in 10 resets. I guarantee you that.
Mm-mm. Um, and then something else too. Well, this is a discrepancy between, I guess, how we play. I mean, I usually don't need Empower Me beyond that, but the other aspect about Empower Me to note is you get more Empower Me. The power of Empower Me goes up more with mech units.
Oh yes, that's
So
true. Absolutely. Yeah.
if you're flooded with just supplicants and ascendants, they're bio units, so they don't add too much to empower me. So this might be the discrepancy because I usually with Tyrant Ascendant, I try to focus on getting most of my army supply into mech, and that way the empower me it hits really hard. Supplicants, I always make sure there's enough for ascendant food and to just maybe a few more so that Alarak, if he has to start eating into them, then they're the first priority to get eaten.
Definitely an
So
important note.
usually,
Definitely an important note that you said. You need to have enough supplicants. Sometimes, when I do a lot of ascendants, I do run out of supplicants, especially when I'm going into big bases. So I have to run back and warp in, and that kind of resets my rhythm, and kind of sometimes throws me off. Yeah.
yeah. So I think that's a discrepancy of how our play styles. But yeah, pretty much what the wiki is saying here is pretty.
Pretty accurate.
It hits on the good points.
Yes. All right.
So next part, Shadow of Death. Yeah, this is of all Alarak's prestiges the most straightforward one. So what's stated here is a lot of people have experience with it, and it's pretty nothing really to add here other than I guess I had a recent experience of the very last part where they say, yeah, if your ally has a means to repair, I mean, yeah, you can ask your ally to spare a few SCVs to repair, but I had this one P3 ally, and he just I became the equivalent of repair machine as to when most random players see a swan ally and expect gas drones immediately. It's like after every engagement, he's like repair. It's like please don't do that to your ally.
How dare he? How dare he? Or rather, how dare you want to enjoy the game instead of living to serve your ally?
Exactly.
That's an
Exactly.
inexcusable sin, my dude. Everyone knows that other people are just means to entertain you. Anyway, that's about it. Let's actually move on.
Um, yeah, this gets into the weeds regarding the details of Empower Me. I do like some of the things that I mean. There's with all the combinations of Alarak plus. I mean, there's other commanders to consider, and play styles. There's I can't imagine he can hit upon everything. But what I'm a little disappointed with is I did allude that that bio contributes less to Empower Me than mech. So I don't see him really mentioning here. But I do like how he mentions heroic units. So like Hyperion, Alexander, any of Tychus's units other than SCV definitely contribute a lot. And especially one thing I found enlightening, the Assault Galley. I didn't know they don't contribute any supply when equipped with the drone hanger. So
Yeah, it does contribute supply. So yeah, anything else?
nope.
Uh,
Yep.
all right, let's move on. Next up, we have hostile forces approaching. Break them. So this is mostly about overcharge. What do you think about this one?
Uh, pretty much he's offering advice regarding how to use your structure overcharge. Using it to gain your expansion early is very critical for Alarak. I mean, granted, there are some mutations, maps, combinations that prevent you from doing that, but for the most part, if you can get your expansion early, do it. And that kind of applies to all the commanders, but yeah, Alarak has a really good tool to make it happen. Yeah, the structure overcharge is limited by cooldown, so try to be wise about how you use it. But also, don't, if you're sitting at 3 charges, don't sit on that charge. Try to, yeah, just don't use it to kill like one Zergling or one, two infested or a Marine. But definitely try to make sure the cooldown starts on it if you reach the cap of 3.
Yeah, that's a nice thing about
And
having some war prisms. You can just send one out if you have 3 charges, and then see hit up near enemy base, and then let it rip. Yeah.
yep.
Okay.
Yep. I don't think this section does really talk about using war prisms, so I think that would be a good thing to include into here.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's not the only option, which is why it didn't talk specifically about it, but it certainly
Yeah,
is an option. And I think it's
exactly.
easier than sending a probe to put down pylons. Anyway, let's move on. Uh, my life for the High Lord.
Yeah, it's a very good section to note just the importance of supplicants. They are not there for damage. They're walking vitamin pills to keep Alarak alive, to feed ascendants. So
They're
the main
supplements.
thing is
They're vitamins.
walking vitamins. Um, yeah, they are a very integral part of the army. And then one thing to note, just how Alrak's usage of resources goes. It's a little weird. It's not like a constant drain on minerals and gas in a certain ratio. At the very beginning, it may seem like Alarak is super gas heavy when you're starting up your Ascendant army, but if you can keep your Ascendants and keep them alive, Alarak does switch from being super gas heavy to being super mineral heavy, because producing all those supplicants to feed the Ascendants, keep Alarak alive, and the hidden cost upon that is all the pylons you need to build in order to maintain that supply. So, yeah, good Alarak players in the mid to late game are mineral starved.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah, this kind of hits all the major points regarding how to manage your supplicants, your
Yeah.
walking vitamins.
Very good. That's why it's very lengthy. It goes into enough detail. Let's move on. The
Mm-hmm.
talents of Slain.
Yeah, what this lengthy session goes over is like the power of ascendants, how to manage them. Um, is it's very good points. I just have a few discrepancies. Like a group of 20 to 24 ascendants. I mean, if you have 20 to 24 ascendants, that's just like excessive styling on Amon, in my opinion.
I mean,
Like
you
to
can get away with that
me,
in regular brutal.
16 or less is a good place to be, because 20 to 24 ascendants, you gotta consider like the amount of supplicants you're feeding to that constantly is, yeah. I mean, granted, if you're not having all your ascendants eat at every minute, which is when your sacrifice is off cooldown, then okay, you just trying to trickle in at power up ascendants as needed over the course of the entire game. But the thing about ascendants, once you can start building them, your timer to power up that's when it starts. So you want to get your ascendants out early and start powering them up quick.
And remember to get the power overwhelming ability. Critical. If you don't have the power overwhelming ability, your ascendants, no matter how many supplicants they eat, will not power up. They'll just recharge.
Yep. That has to be the first upgrade you get out of the Ascendant Archives, and you better put your chrono on that.
Hard.
And once that completes, sacrifice away.
Sacrifice away.
For my experience, pretty much your ascendants are fragile, and they have a massive aggro priority. Amon will go completely out of his way to target your ascendants, so be very mindful of that. Probably I found once you get to maybe 3 or 4 sacrifices, then you don't have to worry about them so much. But before that, you got to baby them hard. And then again, reminder, with 3 to 4 sacrifices, that means when you first get your ascendants out and start getting the sacrifices, that's 4 minutes into the future of the game when you can start relaxing about your ascendants getting focused down.
So maybe a tangent. How do you feel about playing Ascendant style Alarak against a 1v1 Terran?
Against a 1v1 Terran, it depends. Terran can turn up the pressure pretty quickly. So I think it's a very loaded question. We're talking about what kind of 1v1 Terran. Are we talking Maru level? Are we talking
basically the question is all about how do you feel about ghosts against ascendants?
I'm not even threatened.
You're not even threatened
because I'm not even threatened because so if you get ascendants out, yes, you gotta get your you gotta get power overwhelming out, but you can Mind Blast comes up pretty quickly after power overwhelming researchers, and even if not that, if you just want to get Mind Blast early, you don't need to really power up, because a few, like 2 Mind Blasts will kill a ghost. And the other aspect, Alarak's detection is very good. He has Havocs.
So you think? Yeah, go ahead.
So by the time ghosts come out, is like you should have like if you're trying to play Ascendants as a counter to ghosts, I'm not too worried about ghosts at all. They don't scare me.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're not afraid of EMP?
Nope, not one bit, because EMP, I know the range of EMP is not as much as the range of Mind Blast.
There you go. All right, Terran not OP confirmed.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that is not.
Moving on. The third paragraph. So better damage against structures. He's recommending Slayers. I don't think so. If you look at the stats, Wrathwalkers get a large bonus against structures. So if your goal is to take down structures, Wrathwalkers are the way rather than Slayers. Slayers are good because you can get them out early, and especially if you pair them with P1, you can start powering up. And P1 Slayers, most people kind of, in my opinion, sleep on it, but a fully powered up Slayer offers 32 DPS. It's pretty significant, the amount that damage that they output. It doesn't look like much, because I think people associate that the two little tiny lasers that shoot out are not hitting that hard, but they do hit pretty hard when they're powered up. And a Wrathwalker's big, beefy blast seems more intimidating, I guess. But yeah.
All right. Let's actually move on. We are reforged.
So, like, this seems like the author is. This is another author. Yeah, mind blowing that the wiki could have different authors, but yeah, this feels like it's trying to focus in on Alarak's mech units, but just say that they're not so good and there's better options available. I do not subscribe to that. Each of Alarak, in my opinion, each of Alarak's mech units have a purpose. Depending upon some of the purposes are niche situations, but they are a tool to adapt for sure. So starting off with the first paragraph. Yes, I'm glad at least they do mention that his mech is a better option to doing damage against structures because ascendant damage is not that great. But
Yes.
the other aspect is with Empower Me and Empower Me or Alarak, and if you have enough of a supply of army around, you might not even need mech to take down structures because Alarak's Empower Me can get ridiculously strong to the point that it could maybe 1 to 2 shot major structures.
Yeah.
Wrathwalkers. Yeah. Remember to have supplicants to draw fire from these units to protect them. Yes. And if for whatever reason a player opts for Wrathwalkers, whatever reason, it sounds like the Wrathwalkers are at the bottom of the barrel. They are not at the bottom of the barrel. But yeah, he does say they can use Wrathwalker's ability to fire while moving, which is immensely significant. There's not many units in a game that can do that, fire on the move, and all the other units that can fire on the move are regarded pretty well, except for maybe the Cyclone. But the Cyclone's kind of a different beast in itself.
And
but,
the Phoenix.
Yeah, I mean, just
Artanis' Phoenix.
Yeah, and I mean, I would say there's a few people that regard Phoenixes in
probably those guys who
Phoenixes.
Probably those guys who keep commenting on my videos saying, why are you always underrating Artanis? P2 Artanis, he is STEM. Oh my goodness.
I just saw one of those comments not too long ago. But I mean, yeah, for the most part, you got let's not consider Phoenixes and Cyclones because they're topics of hot debate, but other ones,
Diamondbacks,
Diamondbacks, and everyone's favorite battle cruisers.
Who called in the fleet?
With the mini model, but yeah. So that's a huge ability, and Alarak has it. Wrathwalkers, and the one thing that separates his Wrathwalkers from all the other units that can shoot on a move, the range. The range on it is ridiculous. So especially paired up with Havoc, it offers a very immense ability to kite and fire and hit hard.
Yeah.
Second paragraph. Mass Slayers is generally.
I'm just sad that you didn't mention Super Gary among those things that shoot while moving, but I digress. Yeah, continue.
Yeah. Mass Slayers is generally Alarak's best option when using mechanical-based compositions. I don't know about that. Yes, especially if non-P1 Slayers, I kind of feel in most other prestiges, Slayers are kind of just there if you need anti-air. Yeah, I wouldn't consider them the best options. Yeah, they have good mobility, good durability. I definitely subscribe to that, and burst damage. So again, with Slayers, when you blink when you have the blink upgrade, they do they do increase damage when from that one blink. So usually a
Yes.
good tactic, if you have a real beefy unit like a battle cruiser or something,
You blink in.
you blink once and focus in on that unit, and
Yeah.
usually if you
It goes
have
down.
maybe more than 8 Slayers available, it'll go down.
Yeah.
uh, Vanguards don't synergize well with Alarak, so I'm glad as well. If he just said don't synergize at all with Alarak, I would disagree. You got maps like uh, Dead of Night and Minor Evacuation. Vanguards are pretty good for that
No, they're
because
not.
you,
Vanguards are terrible.
well, in my opinion, that's where we differ. Because Destruction Wave cannot it's cooldown base. So if you have a mutation that keeps on, like if you have Broodling Infestation or something that produces more units, and you gotta have consistent AOE damage to take down smaller things, then yeah, they are a means to do that. Now, this is the niche solution that I mentioned, but he has a solution. So
Yeah.
um,
It's just sad that the vanguards in co-op have half the number of projectiles as they do in the campaign version, and as in the campaign version, they're missable, so the enemies can actually dodge the vanguard shots. That's just very sad for a co-op unit. That's more like a 1v1 unit than a co-op unit. That's just sad. Anyway, I'd
mhm.
rather have destroyers for Dead of Night so that they can continuously attack and continuously deal
Mhm.
splash damage. But anyway, continue.
Yeah. Um, Wrathwalkers are best used if there aren't a lot of small swarm units going to be your face. Uh, I, I, I don't think that's a major thing for Alarak. If there's a lot of small swarmy units and you're not making use of Alarak to deal with that, you're doing it wrong. I mean, this sounds like he might be one of those players that puts Alarak in timeout for the entire game while manipulating other units like Wrathwalkers and Ascendants, which is really bad.
Yeah.
But eh. um, the last paragraph talking about war prisms, and yeah, I feel kind of odd reading this because he says, oh, they don't provide that much functionality. They're like an overglorified um, uh, pylon that you don't have to manipulate around. I was like, no, that's uh, war prisms are a lot more than that, especially if you're doing more advanced techniques like tutus, war prism takedowns of the void slivers on site of Amon. It's like you need a unit that is not restricted by ground pathing, and
Yeah.
you can overcharge while over non-pathable ground and do this damage. That is incredibly significant. So I feel this person is like he needs a little more experience with war prisms, war
Well, to
prism
be
blink.
fair, it literally says here at the time of writing 2020, so you know.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed. Agreed.
It's like 4 years old. Oh my goodness, 2020 was 4 years ago. Oh my goodness, I'm so old. Anyway, let's move on. Let's not be old. The Death
Yeah. Only
Fleet.
CTG's old. We're
No,
all young.
no, 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 no. The Death Fleet descends.
Uh, yeah, it's stating the obvious regarding Deathly. It's not as powerful offensively as other commanders, but I feel, I mean, compared to the Hyperion, yeah, I can see that. Compared to Apocalypse, I don't know if I would say Death Fleet is not as powerful as the Apocalypse. I mean, you're comparing a air unit, um, multiple air units, to one ground unit. Yeah, but to each their own. Uh, Yeah, the one thing I wish he kind of mentioned is the amount of power that the Death Fleet adds to Alarak if he pops Empower Me is huge. So definitely, if you have if it's not gonna mess up the timings with your or the rhythm of your attack, if you can pop Empower Me and Death Fleet at the same time, you can crack a pretty significant base with almost that alone. And then you start adding in your army to even power up Death Fleet even more. That just it's a huge amount of power being thrown at Amon. The regarding the teleport ability,
Taxi
yeah,
fleet.
at one point in time, the Death Fleet was called the Taxi Fleet. So, yeah, but I mean, it's not a bad thing. Make use
It
of
is
it
not a
while
bad
it's
thing.
up, and
Yes.
yeah.
All right, let's actually move on. We're up to synergies now, and it only took us 45 minutes. Wonderful. Okay, Artanis.
Yeah, this is pretty straightforward synergies. The Guardian Shell, if non P3, definitely. I mean, talking about protecting supplicants, that you kind of don't need to be protecting supplicants. But yes, you want to be protecting your ascendants. So seeing that Guardian Shell pop on Ascendant, and it is like, as an Alarak player, you become very grateful for it. It's like, okay, I almost lost that guy. I get a second chance. Let's get him the hell out of here.
Yeah,
Usually, I like to
move it.
with Ascendants, keep them with War Prisms. I mean, it should be most players that play with Ascendants have War Prisms around, and then if you see Guardian Shell pop on Ascendant, throw them in the War Prism immediately and get that War Prism out of there.
Get to the
Um,
top.
hmm?
I also like how I also like in particular the shield overcharge because that's like an even better garden shell because it's 400 health and you
Oh
can't
yeah,
just
no,
EMP it
that's
away.
there you are.
And also you can our Alarak can provide the pylon for our tennis not have to build any pylons anywhere. That's pretty nice. And
That's very nice.
both of them can go sky toss. The power of the Death Fleet and the Golden Armada can just go around the map, around the sides of the map, and not have to engage with the bulk of the defenses, whether try to snipe shards on Rissakorho or slivers on Sky of the Famon. Both very good. Uh, anything else?
Yeah, I like the fact that you mentioned regarding putting an initial pylon. Now the thing is, um, Artanis shouldn't need that initial pylon like immediately. So usually, if you can open up your expansion with the pylon placement first, make that happen. Then once you get your Nexus up, then place your the next pylon into where Artanis is building his base, or just where his power field currently is.
Yeah,
Uh, and yeah,
yeah.
yep.
Also, I like how a lot of our Tanazers are mechanical, and they do provide a better buff for Empower Me. That's another thing. Also, I think Observers are just better than Havocs at detecting because they are airborne. So they don't get hit by immortals, by siege tanks, and all that other stuff. But there's the Stray, Spore Crawler, Missile Turret, Viper, and what have you. So I guess having both is a good thing. Let's move on.
Oh yeah, having both is a good thing. Don't make that you shouldn't make havocs. I see a lot of Alarak players that don't make havocs. Havocs confer range upgrades, so range enhancements. So get them regardless.
Yeah. Okay. I guess you have to have them. That's why they're called Havocs, not Have Not X. Let's move on. Cax.
So Karox is moderately effective teammate for Alarak. I would say more than moderately. He synergizes pretty well with Alarak, and even like considering most of this information is
Pre
I mean,
Prestige.
I wouldn't say most of it. Yeah, there's some pages are like focusing on procedures, and some pages are like they it seems like it was written before procedures, and this is one of them. Yeah, even before procedures were a thing, Cax had some pretty good synergies with Alarak. It's just not as enhanced or exasperated with the procedures. So, of course, it says Karak's favors impenetrable defense. So that's the usual Karak's loving eye def, which was even more a thing before prestiges.
Yes.
Reconstruction beam is an invaluable support to Alarak's mech units. Yes, that is an absolute for sure. Repair drones, sorta, kinda. Is like even till this day, is like the people who say repair drones are the best thing in the world. No, it's like if you're going with Karax's carriers, get the essentially an attack upgrade. They're graviton catapults, so it gets the interceptors out faster. The repair drones are just like a little icing on the cake, because the repair drones don't do anything while the carrier is in motion. They only deploy when they're still. So they don't really do as many repairs as many people are led to believe.
If you have a lot of carriers, though. They're like medics.
Yeah, if you have a lot of carriers. But
so I guess you can definitely add it later on, like when you have enough carriers to make it really worthwhile.
Yeah, when you have enough carriers, when you got all your Spear of Adun upgrades,
like 6+.
That's the major thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another thing I like here for go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, another thing I like.
Continue on to.
Yeah, structure overcharge. Go ahead. Structure overcharge.
Oh, structure overcharge, yes. Karax's defenses, he makes use of that, and if you notice a pylon, a shield battery, or a cannon about to go down, put structure overcharge. It confers a huge shield and gives it the ability to potentially, for reconstruction beam, to bring it back up to full. So that's a really good ability, really good synergy between the two on that aspect. And then I'm glad he mentions Spirit of Dune abilities have global range. So as long as, Alarak is definitely going to be on the front lines, mixing it up, and then Arax can, no matter what, as long as he has energy and he has vision, he can offer significant support. One thing I'm a little disappointed is the lack of mention about energizers. That's a major boost that Karax can provide to Alarak.
Imagine stint Wrathwalkers. How fun is that?
Yeah, exactly. And then the other aspect is, like, most of the times you're going to, as a Karax player, you're going to be wanting to siege up your energizers because that lowers their aggro priority, so it helps keep them alive longer. And then when they're sieged up, they provide a power field for Alarak to warp in more supplicants or more ascendants with. So
yes,
yeah,
it also goes the other way around. When Alarak deploys his Warp Prism, that allows a probe to quickly put down cannons, shield batteries, monoliths before the pylon itself, so he can get to shooting right away. That's kind of a little bit of benefit. And another thing is that when I said that Artanis is a lot of mech units, Karax only has mech units. So that will definitely boost Alarak's Empower Me. It's really nice. Another nice thing, speaking of nice, Chrono. So remember I said that you need to get the Power of One upgrade first. Sometimes it takes a while, especially if your macro's not that on point. The Super Chrono can help with getting all your Ascendant upgrades out. That's really nice if you have a Karax ally. You could just Super Chrono out all your upgrades. Yeah?
So, yeah, moderately effective. That's we both do not subscribe to moderate.
I think it's only slightly... I think it's only slightly inaccurate. I think moderate is fine. Like, the moderate is like the bottom end of his effectiveness. He can be moderate to kind of good synergy. Maybe not great, but kind of good. Kind of good, definitely.
Yep.
Okay, let's move on. Vorazun.
Borzin, a good teammate for Alarak? Yes. I mean, Borzin is is a good teammate for most commanders just because of her crowd control ability, black hole, time stop, it's really good synergies. Um, I mean, keeping your enemy in one place or not moving at all, and you just wail on them is, yeah, most commanders can capitalize on that. Uh, Low anti-structured damage at with ascendants, but I mean, I wouldn't say, yeah, if you're building only ascendants, yeah, the Alarak is lacking anti-structure, but if you start incorporating a few Wrath Walkers into that, then yeah, they might outdo Dark Templar anti-structure damage. Uh, 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 I really like the fact that Eden on the weakness of Warzone, which is their mobile detection. Yeah, Alarak's, Havoc's, they when you get the upgrades, they both can cloak, but just because of the Oracle's aggro, because it's a spellcaster flying unit, yeah, it's well, just because it's a spellcaster, its aggro priority is like through the roof. It's like on the level of an ascendant, so keeping them alive is a pain in the ass. And at least ascendants, they move slowly, so they're usually always on the back line. Oracles move, they zip fast, so if you F2A move, they're the first ones in the battle, and most likely Amon has a detector there, and they're dead before they even can do anything.
Yeah, very sad.
So yeah, Havocs do not have that aggro priority, and usually, like most games, I make maybe 1 to 2 Havocs, and I have them through the entire game. So, whereas like if you make 1 or 2 Oracles, the chances are you're gonna lose that in the next engagement are pretty high.
Yes, definitely.
Alarak's expendable army can act as a distraction for Vorazun's Dark Templar. I guess, sorta, kinda. I mean, I wouldn't say his entire army is expendable. Talking about supplicants, yeah, they're the most expendable units, but also a good tanky unit. So I'm not gonna really knock this one too hard, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh,
I personally think that Karak has better synergy with
Agreed.
Alarak than does
That's what I
Vorazun.
was
So yeah.
about to say.
Maybe not good, maybe kind of good. Vorazun kind of good teammates for Alarak. Not because she's good with Alarak in particular, but because her crowd control abilities are just good in general with everyone. So good, but not good in particular for Alarak. Just good. Let's move on.
Um,
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to mention one last thing. The offset Alarak's low mobility with using the dark pylon, the recall function. Yeah, I would say it sort of offsets, but there's some synergy that has to. I mean, coordination that has to happen to make that so. Because if you're just recalling your ally Alarak at will, and putting him into bad positions, that's like the other way around, and just aggravating your ally and creating a situation for a potential loss.
Yes, I've had a Vorazun ally, quote unquote ally, before. Just recalling my probes into the lava. Fun! Very fun times.
Exactly.
Let's move on.
Yeah. Great use
Phoenix.
of. Yeah.
Phoenix, what do you think?
Um, this is kind of funny on how all the other Protoss commanders got a little love except for Phoenix. So this might be very indicative that this was done a while ago when Phoenix was like pretty trashy before he got the buffs that he needed. So digging into this, Phoenix can be high value Alarak with his Cybros Arbiter, which can use mass recall to. So again, really focusing down on Alarak's lack of mobility and saying the Phoenix is only good for being a taxi. So
Kind of.
that's a little disconcerting. Alarak's exceptional wave clearing ability to compensate for Phoenix thereof. It's like, no, Phoenix has some pretty good wave clearing abilities. I mean, the Dragoon suit, like, it can wipe out a whole wave on its own, given
Yeah.
the type of composition mutations that things of that sort.
Yeah.
Where Phoenix, as I said, given where Phoenix was in what 2018 or so, okay, yeah, I can definitely understand why the author wasn't too keen on trying to figure out synergies
Synergies.
between Phoenix and Alarak. But now, yeah, Phoenix has some. Phoenix is a good powerhouse that combines well with Alarak. I mean, conservators, his champions are a huge asset. It's all the Dragoon suits definitely offer a means to synergize well with Alarak. It yeah, in the interest of time, I can't really go through all of it, but yeah, there are quite a few things that Phoenix offers, and both of them benefit from just by being together.
Yeah. That being said,
And
it says high value, but again, I don't see Phoenix being that much more valuable than say a Carax, right? I mean,
exactly,
it's good,
exactly,
but oh, I think circling
yeah,
back to Carax is moderately effective. A little suspicious here, but
yeah, that very
anyway,
suspicious.
anyway,
And then continuing on to Protoss commanders, one that's not mentioned because probably
yeah,
done
not
before
yet,
his
not yet.
time.
Yeah,
Zeratul.
yes,
So Zeratul, I mean, we've mentioned before in past wikis, like Zeratul in himself is a powerhouse. So I mean, you can say synergy, but I mean, does Zeratul really need Alarak ally around?
that's true.
Maybe not entirely, but I mean, yeah. So Zeratul, I mean, both of them, Zeratul and Alarak are known for high DPS. So like when you got mutations like Just Die plus Barrier, oh, they can really knock it out of the park by providing that high DPS.
Yes,
Zeratul is helpful, also very helpful because he has shield guards, so they can definitely help Alarak survive engagements that he might need that extra shield regeneration on his unit.
yes.
So it's definitely, and especially
Well, except
for
Alarak
Ascendants.
really likes
Ascendant,
running forward.
yeah, Alarak really likes running forward, but Ascendants,
That's true.
they're mostly shield.
Yes,
They're
that's
mostly
true.
shield. Oh, yep, yep.
Shield guards will definitely help that. Another thing is, I actually forgot if this was a thing, but I think Xerxel's cannon projections can't be overcharged. Am I right on that? They're structures, right?
Uh, they are considered structures. I do not remember
I do
if
not remember if that was, but I think that is a
I
thing.
kind of
Yeah.
uh, I think I tried it. I mean, yeah. Someone in the comments, please correct us. I think I tried it and it didn't work out. And then I
Really?
just resort
It's kind of
to
sad.
overcharging a disabled um uh, cannon that was being projected out somewhere.
My goodness, that's crazy. Well, anyway, it would be great if that were true. Oh my goodness.
And and
Yeah,
if it's not, no biggie. They're powerful already.
they're plenty
That's just
powerful, but that's a synergy though.
oh, that is a huge synergy if it does work that way. But again, comments, please correct us.
Yeah, that the synergy will largely depend on the overchargeability of cannons because unlike all the other Protoss commanders, no pylons for no pylons. Let's actually move on. Rainer.
So I have a. So it seems like this section is doing the equivalent of Swan and Gas into Rainer and Healing. So it's like it sounds like he's only good for that and providing bodies to boost up Empower Me, and saying that he's an excellent teammate for Alarak, whereas Karax was moderate. So it's a little suspectful in my opinion. But yes, having Alarak has no ways to heal up his units. So anything that takes hull damage, that stays as is. So being able to pair medics with his army allows for him a lot to be out in front lines much more sustainably, and then the helps to heal the hull damage. And if the medics are healing them, they confer a damage reduction buff to his army. So that is very significant in order to curb losses. And I mean, you can say, okay, but supplicants are out there to
Absorb hits.
feed and
Yeah.
absorb damage. But if they can absorb more, then that's less minerals you have to spend. And as I mentioned before, in the mid to late game, with good Alarak play, you should be mineral starved.
Yes.
The Hyperion itself, like if you have Death Fleet and Hyperion and Alarak pops Empower Me, is like, yeah, just those two heroic units itself add
They
a
smash.
lot of power to Empower Me.
Yes.
So, yep. And then the other aspect is if you really want to power up Empower Me sustainably, or for not just bursts, that initial burst based on the cooldown, Raynor does have a lot of mech units. So yeah, start adding mech along with Bio and max out as quickly as you can and be ready to fight along with Alarak when he pops that Empower Me.
Yeah. I wouldn't say excellent teammate. There are a few synergies. Number one, well, I don't think this is a thing. I tried overcharging a point defense during the Hyperion. I think it didn't work. That's kind of sad. But one thing I do know that works is if Alarak uses the Death Fleet to teleport somewhere, battle cruisers can follow. Battle cruisers from Raynor have a tactical jump, so he can fight wherever Alarak wants to. And I think the recall of the mothership can also teleport to wherever Raynor's forces are. So I think they can kind of just go wherever the other wants to fight. That's aside from the mech thing, that's mostly it for me. I mean, aside from what's mentioned here. So I wouldn't say excellent teammate, but maybe kind of okay, kind of good, but wouldn't say excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, especially again comparing it to Carax's moderate rating. Yeah, that's a little suspectful.
We'll never forgive that one, apparently. Let's move on. Oh, you'll like this one. You really love this one. Swan.
Yeah. Swan's main synergy with Alarak is that he's at a gas station and heals all of his units. So
Oh my goodness.
that's all he's good for, is gas station and healing his mech units. No,
Very
Swan
sad.
is much more.
He's
It's
much
like,
more girthy than that.
yeah, his concentrated ring is very girthy.
Very.
So
And very long
science
ranged.
consistently mech-based army. Yeah, that's true. Vespene drones allow Alarak to build said mechanical army much faster, but not just mechanical. His ascendants are very gas heavy. So, I mean, yes, if you drop gas drones for Alarak, you will definitely appreciate that a lot. Especially if he's going into ascendant play, but most Alarak players should know how to work without gas drones. So don't be rushing them out. Get what Alarak needs early on before, and especially before Ascendants and while his first round of Ascendants are out, is he needs he could use an ally that's actually doing more than just providing gas drones and dropping combat drop, and after that, not doing much more from that point on. He could definitely use concentrated beam. He could definitely use a well-placed pulse cannon. So, yeah, Swan does contribute more than just gas and and science vessels.
You know what Alarak can
I do.
overcharge? Floating factories. That's what he can overcharge. So when Swan goes for the first prestige, the heavy weapon specialist, and he decides to go for the mass factory style. He just floats his factories over to Amon space, and the laser drill is having the time of its life. And the factory is kind of sad. He wants to join in. He wants to have some fun. Alarak's got your back, Mr. Factory Sir. He could just drop overcharge on your big, boxy self, and then you can also destroy Amon space. Thanks to Alarak.
Yep. And this is not just Swan. I mean, Swan is nice because he can do multi-build, and factories are only costing minerals. All other Terran commanders can float their buildings too. So, like Raynor, I mean, once he gets mule production up, he can build barracks, build command centers, and yeah, you use the same tactic. Nova, if playing a certain prestige, you might not even use barracks, but you can build that and just have that float for vision. So yeah, it's it is a tactic, and a pretty potent tactic to make use of a floating overcharged building that has a high HP pool.
Yes.
Alarak's access to force fields and knockback with destruction wave can be of some value to siege tanks. Yeah, the knockback is pretty much from destruction wave is kind of all you need to defend.
I'll tell you what.
Swan siege.
I'll tell you what gives benefit to siege tanks. Havocs give his siege tanks insane range. Just give that ranged boy even more range. Give them Havocs and watch them destroy everything before they even get close. That's what you do.
Oh, I'd be very surprised if you do see an Alarak player using Havoc's force fields to protect siege tanks. It's like most Alarak players don't even know, don't even realize that Havocs do have a force field. It's a very forgettable thing.
Oh, I was just talking about the range, but yes, the force fields do exist as well. I just don't use them.
Exactly. My point exactly.
I mean, it's not because I don't know about them. It's just that.
Some players don't. I've used the force fields, and it's like, and then my allies like, I didn't know Alarak had force fields.
Well, no, for me it's more like I use a force field and the big fat hybrid just walks right through it. Aww.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the reason why a lot of people don't even consider it, is because there's so many massive units that just
walks straight through. Like it was nothing.
Yep.
Very sad times. Even on maps like Dead of Night and Mine Evac, you have aberrations that walk through it. Like
exactly.
It's just not worth the extra APM needed. Anyway, let's actually move on. Nova.
Nova has modest synergy with Alarak. I feel this is a callback to that Karak's moderate synergy. Yeah. Her small army won't give him nearly as much power when he uses Empower Me. Most Nova play involves a lot of mech, so that confers a good amount of synergy into Empower Me. Yeah. Furthermore, neither one really excels at defense. Since
when?
I mean, yeah, since when? Yeah, I mean, good Alarak play. You do have to make sure you have enough overcharges for defense, and then any extras that you have are for offense. Saying that Nova doesn't have any good options for defense is wrong, in my opinion. I mean, yes, if you're only relying on missile turrets and railgun turrets for defense, okay, then I get that. But her siege tanks are really significant for the ground defense, and then you pair that with missile turrets, and that's almost all you really need for defense. And if it gets really, you really need to have something for a large attack wave for defense, if an airstrike. So, and then worst cases, if they survive all that, then tack airlift back.
Yes.
Tack airlift has a shorter cooldown than Death Fleet. Yeah, that's true. Should you be using it to always reposition Alarak when he's out of position? Maybe, maybe not, depending how many times your Alarak ally will be out of position. But yes, he would appreciate if you did airlift him if he's attacking an objective and he's got a big attack wave back at home base. But the other aspect is he also appreciates if there's a big attack wave at his home base and you do a Griffin airstrike, which is on a much shorter cooldown, just limited by minerals, and you wipe out that entire attack wave. So play it as you see fit.
Yeah. For me, I kind of see the modest here. Like, aside from those, like, I don't know. Sometimes the airstrike even has anti-synergy with distraction wave. Like, the distraction wave can literally throw units out of the path of the distraction wave, and sometimes distraction wave just steals kills. In fact, in about half the time I see it, it just kill stealing. My army, as Alex is already there, we're waiting to throw our distraction waves. We're ready to throw our psionic orbs, and then Nova just steals the kills. So I wouldn't really say that was helping, since I was clearly in position. The way that Nova does help is defensive drone. That's really good. The tactical airlift, for example, if Alarak is caught in a nuke or in a blizzard and he needs to go somewhere, Nova, help me! Yes, sir! Here comes the airplane. And then you're out of there. That's the way Nova helps. Other than that...
I'm really glad you mentioned defensive drones, because that's major, especially if Alarak is going for Ascendance. And you notice, as a Nova ally, you notice your Alarak ally Ascendants are starting to get targeted, and you drop a defensive drone. That is major, especially if they don't have many stacks on them. Yes.
Yeah.
But
I kind of see the modest though, like not fantastic.
Yeah.
Modest seems fine. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I kind of feel modest. Modest is like your right in between. I feel Nova has a little more synergy than that with Alarak.
Okay.
Not completely middle, but yeah, that's
okay.
Open to interpretation. And then the last part of this is like it sounds like you're trying to turn trying to turn Alarak into the
swan.
Swan for grass drones. Jeez, it's like I get it. Nova loves her gas for her mech units, but it's like Alarak should also be making use of that gas. So
I mean,
past mid game, late game, yeah, I get it, but by mid and late game, you guys got the tempo of the mission should have ramped up to the point you guys have better things to do than trying to say, oh, you're gonna take my gas, build a nexus nearby and saturate your gas.
I think it's the other way around.
The other way.
Yeah, Nova doesn't need it. I'm thinking if Alarak wants to help Nova with production, just chrono her buildings. That's gonna be way better. The chrono,
yes, agreed,
will get her charges of liberators. Speaking of liberators, when you're going Ascendant Alarak, your primary damage dealer to the buildings is Alarak himself. I guess unless you add Wrathwalkers, but if you're going primarily and mostly Ascendants, the liberators are going to be your damage dealers to the buildings. The Ascendants destroy the units, the liberators destroy the buildings. That's going to be how the synergy works. So, yeah, liberators pretty good synergy with Alarak. And regarding that, yeah, if you as Alarak want to help Nova's production, just use Chrono. You don't need to donate your gas. You need that. Use your own gas. All right.
Yes. Learn how to work with your own gas.
Okay. Let's move on. Han and Horner. What do you think?
Yeah, of all the reviews on this particular page, I think this one hits it pretty good. It's yeah, they have a lot of cheap units, can power up and empower me pretty quickly, and then later on they can start dropping the Horner units, which makes clean up clean up the very good for after the psionic or barrage. The synergy between the Havocs and the Thea Ravens is significant, and yeah, nothing pretty offending on here to me.
I also like how the Burohanians, when you get their upgrades, do provide stim. The Hellbats in particular do provide stim when they die, and the Helions provide the, I think, tar bomb.
Here,
Yeah, they kind of slow down. They slow down enemies so that they'll be easier pickings for Alarak. And again, against buildings, you have Han and Horner's Helions and her Reapers, both good against buildings. So yeah, we kind of think this is spot on. All right, how about Tychus?
Tychus is a powerhouse in his own, especially with Prestige too. Um, yeah, definitely.
It's a circle situation, isn't it?
Yeah, I kind of bagged on the medics in the Rainer section, medics and their benefit to Alarak. I mean, with Tychus, you got Nikara or Rattlesnake, and they provide significant benefits to Alarak's army.
Never mind that.
But
just the Warhound
really,
turrets, right? Warhound turrets for overcharge. Fantastic.
Yep. Just place one down wherever you want, and you start overcharging. And it's, I mean, just the Warhound turret itself is a huge asset, and just make it tankier and outputting thousands of damage.
Thousands. Yeah, that's pretty good.
That is very significant.
So
yeah, but
yeah. Big red button also pretty good. Tychus, yeah. The only thing that worries me with Tychus is that it's gonna be a Zertul situation where does Tychus really need Alarak to be there? I mean,
exactly.
If you play normally as Alarak, Tychus will be out before you have anything, like even a mothership. Maybe the same time. You have the mothership and Tychus, and then maybe you can combo push, but does Tychus really need the mothership to be there, or does Tychus really need Alarak to be there? Without polarity, not really. I guess Havocs are pretty good for buffing.
Yeah.
Buffing Tychus and company.
Yep.
And yes. I guess if you want to do Wrathwalkers to complement their firepower from afar, just stand behind the outlaws. They deal the damage. You just stand behind and shoot stuff. You can also go air, though that might make life difficult for the Carax or the Tychus. If you fly your Death Fleet directly over their outlaws and they physically can't see where their outlaws are, that might be an anti-synergy. But other than that, it's kind of a Zeratul situation. Yeah, synergy, meaning Tychus doesn't mind you being there. That's their synergy. Tychus doesn't mind that you help. Oh my goodness.
The one thing that Tychus has a hard time with is trying to backdoor stuff because he doesn't have any air units.
Oh, that's true. Oh, that's a good point.
Alarak has a Warp Prism that can sneak around, and as Tychus has shared vision with his ally, he's like,
medevac in.
Thank you for providing me vision. I medevac in,
or drop the Odin.
I can drop in and press the attack with you.
Yeah, that's true. Very good point. Okay.
And then, to finish off the Terran commanders, I think we should throw Stukov in as a Terran commander. I usually regard him as Terran.
No. He's in the Zerg. He's in the Zerg.
Well, if he's in the Zerg, then okay, but he still follows that you can lift up a building and make a building walk and
Okay, so
be
Taka?
overcharged.
Taka's now Terran? Alright, moving on. Let's do that later. Arcturus, what do you think?
Oh yeah, I forgot about Arcturus. um, yeah, Arcturus being able to drop a bunker and then overcharger. That's especially like on areas like Site of Amon, where using bunkers to take out the first taking out the first couple slivers just with a bunker and rocket troopers. If perchance the bunker does catch aggro and you start having a wave of units on it, Arcturus would definitely appreciate that overcharge. It
Yeah.
makes the bunker that more tanky and kills all the little mooks that start coming toward the bunker.
And it can survive the blue
Um,
fart, which sometimes arrives when you have a level 2, 3, or 4 sliver. It's also good.
mhm. um, if Arcturus's ESOs get focused down, overcharge,
Overcharge.
clear out all that. Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much keeps the ESO safe, and most likely will wipe out anything harassing it. So that's another good synergy.
How does
Depending upon,
Arcturus
go
help?
ahead.
How does Arcturus help Alarak though? Certainly not with the blimp. The blimp does nothing. The blimp does
Yeah,
nothing
yep,
over the mineral line. Maybe detection.
yeah.
Uh,
With the army,
I guess with the
with the
contaminated
army, yeah.
strike, if you're in a bind, the contaminated strike can help out tremendously.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, if the Havoc's got taken out, if the blimp is gone, but yeah, so not over the mineral lines unless the your Alarak ally hasn't saturated yet for any reason, or if you're bringing the blimp out into the front lines. So yeah, the blimp does confer speed and damage output to units when it's doing its amplified airwaves.
yeah, but I think do
That
we have another Zeratul situation here, or just barely averted?
some maps.
Some
So like
maps,
Scythe of
Rich to
Amon,
Core Hall,
Rift the Core Hall,
Void
Oblivion
Thrashing.
Express.
Yeah,
Yeah, kind of don't need Alarak there. But
Alarak becomes a
in
nice to
some,
have.
yeah, it's that doesn't mean they don't pair well together. Both have good damage output. Alarak has a little more DPS with his ascendants. Uh,
Like
and
the one thing that Alarak can really do over most commanders is open up their rocks. Arcturus can open up his rocks faster. The only one who can do
Yep.
it faster is Karax. So, oh my goodness.
The one thing that a good synergy is Arcturus takes a little while to before he comes online. So when Alarak comes out, yeah, Alarak is kind of like a Kerrigan situation. Once you got your hero, pretty much things are in a good place. They can hold off quite a bit,
Yeah.
and so that allows Arcturus to really get to his mid to late game power. So yeah.
All right. Okay, so that rounds up that rounds out the Terran commanders. Let's move on to the Zer commanders. Kerrigan.
Yeah. Kerrigan synergizes pretty well. Her malignant creep confers HP regen and damage output. Kind of surprised they're referring to Kerrigan's Zergling as raptors, which is right, but yeah, you rarely see that being mentioned.
That's a good thing.
Uh,
That's a good thing.
yep, exactly. The synergy between Hydralisk and Havocs is definitely a good mention. Kerrigan's Omega Worms, great value to Alarak. Yes, I mean they the maybe not this author, but the author in previous definitely really bagging on Alarak's lack of mobility, and this helps out a lot. The Omega Worms provide mobility and protection. So if your ascendants are under fire and you need them to have them retreat, just throw them in an Omega Worm, and they're good, and they start regenning any hull damage they've taken. So,
and they can also get overcharged. Worth mentioning. I've been doing the overcharge thing this whole time. You can overcharge the worms. Very great.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, and you just pop them out. It's like, oh, I got vision here. Let's pop out a bunch of worm heads and then overcharge. It's like if I got 3 overcharges, oh, that's a lot of damage to be out. You shouldn't be doing that. You should kind of stagger your overcharges. But yeah, if you just want to style, then you can.
Yes.
One thing I'm a little disappointed that you didn't talk about Mutalisk. So Mutalisk with the Havoc the range upgrades is significant because Mutas don't have that much range. I mean, you can make a full range by popping an Omega Worm and then attacking the Omega Worm and having to bounce due to damage. But I mean, with Havoc upgrade, you might not have to really rely on that technique that much.
Yeah, definitely. One more thing, or I guess 2 more things. The first one is weaknesses. Kerrigan's main weakness in regular Brutal is the first 4 minutes before Kerrigan comes out. It's kind of a whole deal to defend the first wave of, for example, Rift to Core Hall before Kerrigan comes out. Or something like, the 3-minute waves on Void Thrashing, especially if it's Vultures, if it's Reapers, you're going to panic. But guess what Alarak does? Overcharge. Problem solved. Kerrigan comes out.
Yep.
Yeah. Just have an Alarak ally. Just just have an overcharge ready for the first wave, and then you'll carefree transition over into the mid game and be a very happy Kerrigan. That's really nice, just because you have that overcharge in wave 1. Going the other way, for Alarak, his weakness in mutations. Before we move on that, Kerrigan's weakness in mutations. He doesn't have very good ways to deal with Poopigators. And Mind Blast is very good at dealing with Poopigators. Also Wrathwalkers. Also, when you have a Poop Train, Psionic Orb. All good ways to deal with Poopigators. Very good to have an Alarak teammate if you're a Kerrigan against Poopigators. Going to Alarak's weakness in mutations, I believe Alarak doesn't really have a way to avoid COVID, Black Death, aside from just staying out of range. If you do get infected, you can kind of stave off the damage by staying inside the Omega Worm until you're ready to fight.
To attack.
Or if your mineral line gets affected somehow, Kerrigan can pop out an Omega Worm or a creep tumor, then your probes are pretty certainly not gonna fall to COVID. Another great thing about having a Kerrigan ally, specifically against COVID. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more other details that we can go into, but I mean, this hits upon some major ones.
So overall, Alarak synergizes very well. Definitely agree. Hard agree with that. She definitely synergizes very well with Alarak. Okay, let's move on. Sagara,
she's moderately effective teammate. Yeah, I would agree upon that. Zagara is very well known for burst damage, and in some sense, Alarak is kind of bursty himself, but his burst is a little more prolonged when you got Empower Me and working with the Ascendants. But I would say Kerrigan is better synergy with Alarak than Zagra. Zag is just mainly there to deal damage, and they're kind of just both doing their own things, independent of each other in some sense. The major synergy is Mass Frenzy. So having Frenzy on, especially if you have Wrathwalkers, wow, that's pretty potent. Mass Frenzy with Ascendant build, I'm not too sure why that's mentioned because Ascendants are spellcasters, and Frenzy doesn't really affect that much.
Yeah.
So
I was thinking more for Zagara that she's an early game oriented commander. She can really throw bailing after bailing. Well, wave after wave bailing and Scourge. And even Zagara herself. But in the late game, for example, on very long maps like Mal Warfare, she has trouble rallying her forces. Well, Alarak can take care of the late game very well. Once he gets that good number of facilities all powered up, he gets that Death Fleet with lots of destroyers. He gets that platoon of Wrathwalkers. He can handle the late game, but Zagara can very effectively get Alarak to that line. And speaking of get to that line, Zagara with their third prestige can just detunnel behind enemy positions, and the mothership can just teleport right at Zagara and reinforce immediately. That's a very good synergy. You can just do backstab attacks together, and just teleport out when you have done your damage or when you need to. Oh, by the way, I want to circle back temporarily. One more thing I forgot to mention with Hot and Horror. The salvage is also triggered when you sacrifice supplicants, so you get way more. You're able to get way more supplicants when you have a Hot and Horror ally because of the salvage. But yeah, going back to Zagara, that's all I can think of at the moment. What else can you add?
Yeah, just I think the moderately effective. Now this one was stated right. Yeah, maybe a little bit more than moderate, but yeah,
Maybe.
just about right.
All right, Abathur, what do you think?
Avatar possessing modest synergy with Alarak, yeah, I would say that's about right. I do like how the first couple of sentences talk about using his knockback of Destruction Wave to knock enemies into Toxic Nest, and the fallacy that it could also work against it if he's knocking away from Toxic Nest. Definitely do not do that to your
I wouldn't say that's a
Avatar
fallacy.
ally.
That's a real risk of happening.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you can knock him into the Toxic Nest, that's very
That's really
nice.
good.
That's very
Yes.
nice. But do that on attack waves that do not die outright from the destruction wave, because at that point you are denying
Yes.
extra biomass to your
100%.
Avatar ally. Alarak should pay attention where he throws his enemies, as always. When paired, it's best for Alarak to focus on the ground army, which most time he is, until we talk about prestiges and P3, and he can just do Death Fleet only if you really wanted to.
I think most times this is inverse now. Like when prestiges are counted, it's usually Abathur who focus more on ground with swarm hosts, and it's Arak who focus more on air fleets with destroyers. Like it's inverse now. Oh my goodness, it's crazy.
Pretty much. And yeah, in addition to Mend, Mend is a very nice ability, especially for the Death Fleet and everything else in Alarak's army. Swarm Queens with their upgrades, they can also. I mean, Alarak has a mix of bio and mech, so Swarm Queens are a good addition to help keep those alive. Don't really need to keep supplicants alive, but ascendants for sure.
Yeah. Aside from that, I can't really think of anything else specific to these two. Aside from the same old brutalist deep tunneling that Alarak can follow, pretty much same as Zagara. Other than that, not a whole lot. I guess the Leviathans can fly over the edge of the map, and again, Death Fleet can follow, and vice versa. So, kind of similar. Modest energy, yeah, kind of. Let's move on. We have Stukov, definitely a Zerg commander.
So for Stukov, yeah, basic synergy with Alarak. I do like how they go into detail regarding the bunkers and the interaction of structure overcharge with it. So it has to be rooted for you to cast structure overcharge, but once you cast it, then you can uproot it, and the structural overcharge will be still going. So you have a walking bunker that has a melee attack and a ranged attack with structural overcharge going. That's a lot of firepower early on.
Very nice Chloe hat.
That is walking, yeah, walking toward you. Uh, Another synergy I would like to mention is, so Alarak's mobile detection is limited by ground. Stukov has Brood Queens that can give Mothership, P3 Mothership, detection and increased sight radius, which is very significant, especially if you're playing against like a mutation like We Move Unseen.
Yes.
So that is a huge boost there. Combined, yeah, and mentioning before, kind of like most other Terran commanders, you can lift off a building, whereas Stukov can crawl a building toward its destination, and you can overcharge it and provide that mobile, potent firepower with a very tanky structure that's just going where you want it to go.
Yeah, and if you want to use other prestiges of Stukov, specifically the first one, anything that comes out of that will be a good buff to Alarak's Empower Me. The Diamondbacks, great. Siege Tanks, great. Banshees, great, but don't make Banshees, they're terrible. Not really, I just hate them. Liberators, great. They all provide Alarak with extra Empower Me buffs. And specific to Siege Tanks, they have Stukov Siege Tanks have 18 range. And you add 2 more with Havoc. It's just, yeah, they almost become bio launchers that can deep tunnel. They're gonna be what bio launchers are supposed to be, and you just keep making them. It's so fun. Definitely a good synergy for that. I wouldn't say mostly. I would say pretty okay. Like as much as like someone like at least as much as someone like Phoenix. Not incredible, but more than basic, I would say. Right?
Yes, yes. If you're playing only infested infantry, then okay, yeah, it is basic. But if you're combining all of Stukov's capabilities, then yeah, it's definitely more than basic. And similar to like to Raynor, Hyperion plus Death Fleet plus Empower Me is a hell of a lot of damage you can dish out. So Apocalypse, Alexander, Death Fleet plus Empower Me is like, if anything survives after that, I'll be very impressed. I'm kind of feel a little weird about this one line. Sukov's infested Diamondbacks can bring down air units for vanguards to attack, which may seem like a good idea if you're up against air composition.
If you really like vanguards, sure, go for it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't
so
be
cute.
saying that best synergy. Stukov, Alarak, Vanguards, Diamondbacks. That's what we need to be building.
Hey,
but, yeah,
you know,
he followed on. He said, but in practice,
the Diamondbacks, when they bring down the Ariats, the subunits can also shoot the Ariats. Mind blowing. Some synergy, amazing.
Yeah. I mean,
oh my goodness.
Yeah. It's a little hokey why he's king in on that, but sure, why not?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Can we move on?
The last one, I'm trying to make sense of it. You're really better off building a Sinister Slayers instead of allowing Stukov to focus his efforts elsewhere instead of babysitting you. It's like, I mean, yeah, Senates need to be babysat, but Stukov doesn't need to go out of his way to be babysitting. In fact, most Stukov players don't even know you're there because they're just busy building bunkers all day long.
Yeah, I don't get it. What, babysitting? This is definitely written before Prestigious because nobody babysits a P3 Alarak. Just go, unless we're talking about Stetboy or Zeratul or those guys. But
or most allies are not. I was like, oh, my Alarak my Alarak ally is building a sentence. I need to go on switch, drop everything and go on to babysitting duty. No ally does that.
Anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
kind of weird, but that's the thing. Let's move on. The Haka, what do you think?
So Alarak and Daka have some power together. I guess so. They're pretty good together. Uh, uh, I mean, the Haka in many cases, it's kind of like almost the
It's
same
a Zertul
situation
situation.
as
Yeah,
exactly,
it's another Zertul
exactly. It's
situation.
like Alarak is just kind of there now. Early farming. Yeah, Alarak. So we mentioned about structures that can get up and move around. Hey, Daka has that. So uh, get a get a warden, have it walk toward the area that the Haka is going to be farming, and then Alarak overcharges it, and yeah, the Haka can start pulling in a lot more stuff to farm that early essence.
And he can fight
So
bunkers
that's a
now. He'd be able to
yep,
fight bunkers and
exactly.
cannons and all the other stuff that he normally can't fight. In the early game,
hmm
at least. Yeah. But yeah,
And then
definitely.
the fact that he mentions the difference between primal worms and greater primal worms for overcharge is good.
Yeah, good.
But yeah, I mean they uh, uh, I guess yeah, modest synergy would be the right thing to say.
Yeah. It's more
Yeah,
like they have great power individually, but nothing really that uh, makes the whole greater than the sum of its parts. The parts are plenty
yeah,
strong. There's no need to make the
yes,
whole greater than the sum of its parts, essentially, is what we're saying.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. Like it in the conversely, a good synergy is the Haka and Abathur. So that's good synergy.
that's good
The
synergy.
Haka and Alarak is just yeah, they're just strong
They're strong.
on each level.
I think
Yep.
that's pretty much it for Dahak and Alarak. Let's move on. How about
Yep.
Stet Boy?
Step Boy, all Step Boy's units are mech. So we
Yes.
mentioned that mech contributes more to. So he's kind of in the same boat as Phoenix. Is like all
Oh
units
yeah.
are mech. Empower Me is really does phenomenal when you have either Step Boy or Phoenix. Step Boy himself is kind of I wouldn't say it's a Zeratul situation. It's like he does a lot, and he also helps allies. So I think he's definitely anyone who says that the synergy between Step Boy and Alarak is modest is they don't know what they're talking about in my opinion. And then the other aspect of synergy, Steadilites.
Can be.
You can overcharge those.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ah, so good.
So that is significant. So like early on, if you need to clear out an encampment early or something like Void Risk, if you got Stellite spread um, in the right locations and overcharge is ready, boom, right there.
When you're fighting,
And
you can
within
double
over,
overcharge it. Like Green Zone overcharge and Alarak overcharge. So you can shield your army
yeah,
while smashing Amons. It's fun. It's really fun. Definitely recommend. Purple
yep,
Zone.
highly recommend.
Purple Zone will recharge Ascendant's energy. Very nice for just spamming those orbs. Very nice.
And not just Purple Zone, you got Infestors. Infestor hooked up to Ascendant. It's like wow, that's a lot of damage. And I mean, Ascendants don't have a high HP pool, but I mean, if anything does get past their chunky shields once they got enough stacks on them, it's like yeah, that extra massive HP regen is also nice to ensure that they stay alive. So
Yes. All right. I think that's it for all the commander synergies.
yep, yep,
Overall, I think this article is mostly fine. It's dated in
yep,
all the sections that you expect it to be dated. So the guys who wrote this, if they listen to our other, if they listen to our other wiki reviews, probably already know what's going on. So it's mostly fine. Just refresh the ones that can be updated to reflect more current strategies, and more current knowledge. Uh, the I would for when you're writing down synergies between all commanders, I recommend that you read all the commanders first and then judge later on which ones are better synergy wise than others. Like the way when we go through all these synergies, they all sound like they do fine synergy, but no one really has a bad synergy or an anti synergy. So like we kind of overrate the synergies almost. Like yeah, this is good synergy. Everyone's good synergy. Oh, this one's good synergy. Oh, modest synergy. But uh, wouldn't those good ones just be average when we compare them against the other synergies? Just my thoughts. But yeah,
I,
yeah. Go ahead.
I would also like to add anyone who is thinking about updating, as CTG recommended to update to make it more current. Please jump into CTG's Discord. We'd love to help you out, discuss. We can talk back and forth, argue, or have productive arguments of how to improve this. And yeah, anything to make the community better.
Yeah, and if you don't have plans to update the wiki, please hop on my Discord anyway. It's really fun, I promise. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for watching. If you have an idea for what else, please leave in the comment. I'll see you guys next time.